Have you ever wondered why the world's greatest problems remain unsolved? Well, according to the World Economic Forum and UN Foundation, some of the world's pressing problems include climate change, large-scale conflict, economic inequality, food and water security, and access to education. However, these problems have been with us for the longest time. Yet it seems that our social movements, our call to action, hashtags, and protests fall on deaf ears. It is time to face this head-on. And what better way to address this requires more than just a multidisciplinary dialogue or bringing in and compiling ideas from various perspectives, but rather stepping up into the challenge and integrating these perspectives to come up with concrete, doable, and measurable solutions and become an interdisciplinary scientific innovation leader. Let us talk about interdisciplinary scientific innovation leadership. Now, this is a pioneering program offered by Salle University that aims to train graduate students on philosophical, research, collaboration, and action principles and methodologies needed to address the pressing challenges of the modern world. Now, the course adopts the interdisciplinary, challenge-based learning, action research approach grounded in critical realism and Lasallian principles in understanding a focal issue and phenomenon and proposing and defending meaningful and innovative intervention. Here are the 5 principles of interdisciplinary scientific innovation leadership.
1. Establish a communicative action. There is a call for a deeper understanding of social realities, and we can obtain it through the analysis of the situation of the society. A lot of researchers were made, but a good research is expected to impact our society, to empower the community, and reform policies based on the needs of the people. To fully attain good research, we should be in solidarity with like-minded organizations and individuals. Communication is another key for successful research. This communicative action is from the concept of Jürgen Habermas, a German philosopher and who is an exponent of critical theory within the tradition of Frankfurt School. Habermas provides a theoretical basis for a view of planning that emphasizes widespread public participation, sharing of information with the public, reaching consensus through public dialogue rather than exercise of power, avoiding privileging of experts and bureaucrats. In this view, the legitimacy of democracy depends not only on the constitutional processes of enacting laws, but also on the discursive quality of the full processes of deliberation leading up to such a result. Therefore, communicative action is oriented towards mutual conflict resolution through compromise. People here do not primarily aim at accomplishing their own success, but want to harmonize their plans of actions with the other participants. The Sustainable Development Goals are the blueprint to achieve a better and more sustainable future for all. They addresses the global challenges we face, including poverty, inequality, climate change, peace, and justice. The Sustainable Development Goals are all interconnected, and in order to achieve the 2030 Agenda, United Nations has to secure that all the goals are met. The United Nations have ongoing campaigns that highlights the work that relates specifically to some of these goals. And here are some of the ongoing campaigns. Goal 13 calls for urgent action to combat climate change and its impacts. To address climate change, countries adopted the Paris Agreement to limit global temperature rise to well below 2 degrees Celsius. The Climate Action Summit in September 2019 delivered important news actions, a surge in climate momentum, and a clear destinations. 45% emissions cuts by 2030 on the way to carbon-neutral world by 2050. And we can say that progress is always possible. One of the ways to resolve pressing problems in the society is the circular economy. A circular economy is an economic system of closed loops in which raw materials, components, and products lose their value as little as possible. Renewable energy sources are used, and systems thinking is at the core. The potential benefits of shifting to a circular economy extend beyond the economy and into the natural environment. by designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and regenerating rather than degrading natural systems, the circular economy represents a powerful contribution to achieving global climate targets. Circularity attributes to a more sustainable world, but not all sustainability initiatives contribute to circularity. Circularity focuses on resource cycles, while sustainability is more broadly related to people, the planet, and the economy. Circularity and sustainability stand in a long tradition of related visions, models, and theories. An example is green economy. The green economy is defined by the United Nations Environmental Platform or UNEP as an economy that results in increased well-being and increased social equality, while at the same time greatly reducing environmental risks and ecological scarcity. Circular economics is always a way of implementing the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. In particular, there is a strong relationship with SDG 6, or clean water, SDG 7, affordable and clean energy, SDG 8, or work and economic growth, SDG 12, or responsible consumption and production, and SDG 15, the life on land. Aspects of the circular economy, such as recycling of household waste, e-waste, and wastewater, provide a toolbox to comply with the SDGs.
3. Be an agent of positive social change. Contemplating on the focal issues espoused by UN in their Sustainable Development Goals, the next step now is, how can you bring in this positive social change that you aspire for? Now, the Lasallian reflection framework helps you to do that. Now, this cycle starts with conscious experience, or C plus experience, or in Tagalog, masit danas. Now, this stage encourages us not just to see the situation, but more importantly, to experience it firsthand through exposure and immersion. The goal of this first stage is to lead us to a purposive of knowing and feeling oneself and others. The second stage, which is also the core of the framework, is called the critical reflection, or analysis plus reflection, or in Tagalog, suri nilay. Now, this leads us to go further and deeper in the process by asking the why of the situation and looking for the interconnections of personal and social structures, and going beyond looking at the surface problems to identifying the root causes of the issues, problems, and crises. Now, the goal in this stage is to guide us to the final questions of Christian faith and Lasallian values of the spirit of faith, zeal of service, and communion and mission. While the last stage is the committed action, or commitment plus action, or in Tagalog, taya and kilos. Now, anchored on critical reflection, a concrete plan of action will be drawn up and will be implemented. Now, the goal of this stage is to evaluate the act, program, or intervention, giving much emphasis on the quality of the output and consistency of the process, and then the cycle starts all over. 4. Get to know the basics of critical realism. To make sense of an interdisciplinary project, a worldview or philosophical stance coming from critical realism is needed to anchor our perspectives. Let us know more about it. Critical realism is a philosophy of science which posits that reality is not limited to what is observed or what can be observed. It offers a lens for understanding our being in the world, or ontology, and how knowledge is formed and understood, or epistemology, and how we ought to act as moral beings, or ethics. Now, according to Roy Bhaskar, the leading scholar of critical realism, observable phenomenon is caused by underlying things or entities with causal powers because of their structures and mechanisms. Now, these causal entities bring about events under certain conditions. In other words, it provides a philosophical tool for identifying causal mechanisms. In his view, social reality is comprised of two things: the intransitive world and transitive world. The intransitive world is a world that objectively exists. In other words, this world is outside and independent of the knower. While the transitive world, on the other hand, is the human construction of that reality, or the social actors' perspectives, beliefs, or ways of knowing the situation. Bhaskar also argued that we human beings shape our social worlds, but in turn we are also constrained by social structures. According to him, there are three levels of reality he calls the domains of reality. The first is the domain of the empirical, which is reflected in what we experience using our senses. The second is the domain of the actual, which includes those events happening beyond our sensory experiences. And the last is called the domain of the real, which consists of unseen causal entities and structures and their mechanisms of acting operating even below the empirical and actual domains.
5. Engage in action research. Bert Dannermark suggested 5 important steps in interdisciplinary research process. Phase 1. Planning the interdisciplinary research, where the researchers must create a necessary laminated system, a framework for analyzing phenomena and their explanation that makes up the totality of such significant mechanism. This phase requires the researcher to turn the nature of reality, and from this, they can make a preliminary types of structures, mechanism that must be included in their research to achieve its objective. In the second phase, disciplinary understanding requires a theory about theories and different principles to gain a deep understanding about the nature of the problem which they seek to address. One of the principles in this phase is the critical realist embrace, in which critical realists utilize the insight of other theories or meta-theory, a theory about the component of a theory, and based on this, they can decide which area of knowledge must be considered and recruit to the relevant scientific experts. Third phase, a teamwork phase characterized by cross-disciplinary understanding. This phase is often highlighted in guidelines for interdisciplinary research. It includes most fundamental aspect of interdisciplinary research, namely integration of knowledge that result in epistemic emergence. Critical realists propose 5 important investigator-specific factors which play a crucial role in scientific or a successful interdisciplinary research. Passion for work, including true openness to the approach, perspectives, and attitude of a scientist from other disciplines, mutual respect of scientists in the team, complementary skills and knowledge, ability of scientists to develop a common language, ability of a scientist to meet together on a regular basis. Fourth phase. This transdisciplinary phase includes a necessary laminated system. The researcher needed to logically think about the component of a reality which could be responsible for the phenomenon being researched. For instance, Anthony Giddens' structuration theory attempts to understand human social behavior to resolve the competing views of structure agency and micro-macro perspective. Hence, our action will produce result or outcome. In contrast to this theory, Roy Bhaskar ontological conceptualization, a mechanism operates within stratification world comprising numerous interlacing systems. In short, the reality is layered. Building on this ontological, epistemological, and ethical perception, critical realist advocates a particular methodology for research inquiry, one essentially directed to the discovery of causal mechanisms in a social life, and this is termed retroduction. Andrew Sayer says that this involves an inference of some phenomenon to understand a causal properties producing it. In retroduction, the researchers seek to apprehend how event B was proposed or produced by event A and event B was produced by event C. These are called philosophy of science. The last phase in interdisciplinary research process is the outcome, an integrated knowledge about the object. It is characterized by what is often said to be a key emergent property of such research. The outcome of the research are unique and could have not been produced by the component of discipline separately. In this section, the author suggested a highlight in the importance of challenges of disseminating the research. In a nutshell, critical realist interdisciplinary research is a challenging task. Nevertheless, it is a fruitful way for the researchers to address the issue, to achieve the goal of overcoming global challenges and local problems. We must fully affirm the multi-causality of the phenomenon in the real world. It is important to learn in our academic training and professional work because it addresses pressing issues that we face, such as climate change, health inequalities, social unrest. Furthermore, it is not only global issues that must be approached in this way. Research that has a single area of interest must also go beyond its disciplinary boundaries to achieve adequate understanding.